Welcome back to Cancers, a podcast about the modern cancer journey. We are going to be exploring environmental cancers, their effect on the people that have them, the families that surround them, the friends that they have, the challenges in getting cures, diagnosis, and treatment, as well as potential options for unthought of treatments previously and new ways of looking at environmental cancers and how we can stop them. So, this podcast is about a lot of elements surrounding environmental cancer, which I have personally been battling since 2005. My name is Eric. I'm your host. And if you don't know me, I was diagnosed with cancer in 2005. My cancer tumor had already grown to the point where it was growing out of the back of my spine, and it had already penetrated out of the skin. They took it out, massive surgery, about 6, 7 months of recovery. Since then, I've had about 12, 13 more surgeries. I've been through chemo, radiation, experimental drugs. It has been an incredible journey. One, as to quote something I once heard, it's $1 million experience I wouldn't pay a penny to repeat. So we are going to dive into some cancer, and today we want to talk about Cancer Alley. We want to talk about the movie that Sierra and I have made, which is our second movie about environmental pollution and cancer. Because unfortunately, environmental cancers are on the rise. I was actually reading a study recently that said that 80 to 90% of all new cancers diagnosed are of environmental sources. Now, everybody's been seeing PFAS and PFOS, and they now know we have a massive toxic exposure problem in our country, but they're acting like this is brand new information. So today, before we even get into the movie, I want to start off with just a little bit of cancer trivia and knowledge, and I want to talk about Maud Sly. Now, if you're not familiar with Maud Sly, that's okay. Most people should not be. Maud Sly uh, was an innovator in her time. She was a pathologist, and around the 20s and 30s at the University of Chicago, which is, I mean, amazing if you think about her being in that position in the 20s before a lot of equal rights took hold. Maud Sly, unfortunately for mice, invented a way of doing genetic testing using mice, and that is one of her big sides to it. But the reason we're bringing her up today is because I think it was 1937. Time magazine followed her to a convention, a cancer convention that took place over in Europe. Now, this cancer convention was a really fascinating note because without trying to hide the truth back then, they didn't realize what they were telling us, which is the truth that all these people know what is cancerous. During this time, they talked about what are carcinogens that would lead to cancer. They talked about cigarettes. They talked about char and burn on your steaks and on your food. They talked about chemicals in food. They talked about a lot of different aspects. And they talked about radiation. They talked about a lot of different ways that you can be exposed to environmental cancers. So even though in the 80s, it wasn't until the 80s that the cigarette companies were like, all right, yeah, I guess we knew, we should have told everybody. We have this past history of saying people saying, I didn't know. Well, the truth is everybody knew from the 30s. It's been known for a long time. And that is why, as we talked about yesterday, now the current numbers are 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will be diagnosed with cancer. I happen to be one of those people. I was diagnosed in 2005, but because my cancer is environmental, they haven't known how to treat it. As a result, I still have it on my tailbone. I have it right here in my neck, and it's actually expanding potentially to the lungs. So we're watching how that works. Um, and I've already had a surgery, and I had some tumors removed inside of my head previously. So the problem is environmental cancers don't have the same look. They don't have the same history that we're used to with cancer, especially in our country. So Cancer Alley was a really important story because it's a story of people that are being poisoned intentionally by industry in order for profit. Now, this is something that happens all over the world and something we can't allow to happen anymore because environmental cancers are going to continue as long as we let them, but only as long as we let them. So, what is Cancer Alley? Cancer Alley, we've been talking about. We heard about this while we were working on phosphate. We thought this can't be real. This sounds crazy. Well, today we're going to show you a trailer for the movie coming up. You'll get to see some of the footage we shot, some of the interviews we have, and some of the story that we did. Now, Cancer Alley really caught our attention because everybody thinks of New Orleans, or Louisiana, they think of New Orleans. But in fact, if you take a look here, you see New Orleans on the bottom right, and on the left top is Baton Rouge, and all those red dots are petrochemical companies that line the Mississippi River, and that's 85 miles of the Mississippi between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. That is where Cancer Alley occurs. Now, they're getting dumped, everything's getting dumped into the river. All these companies are there, but one of their biggest problems is air quality. And air quality is even harder than water quality to prove because you can't contain it. But right here, I just wanted to point out that the area called Cancer Alley, this is, according to the EPA, the estimated cancer risks. And you can see that in a lot of these places we're going, the cancer risks are tremendous. Now, how did this all happen? Well, it's a very interesting history down there, but in the short of it, a lot of old plantations were sold to chemical companies. And this didn't start till way later, by the way. This is probably in some of these places, even the 1940s. So these places were havens of just beautiful nature for a long time. Then the plantations sold it. A lot of the people that used to work on there, former slaves, former people that were on there, had to move out and were given free areas. Well, not free, but they were given land by the plantation owners for all of their, I guess, their work over the years. So a lot of them became what are called fence line communities. Fence line communities are literally live on the fence line of these chemical companies. Now, the problem with that is that these plumes of poison go really, really far, sometimes up to miles and miles and miles. And this is causing excessive rates of cancer, asthma, and other types of chronic illnesses in the neighborhoods, which are all still right there. They haven't been able to move for a couple other reasons we'll go over later. But even the UN is getting involved. It's becoming international and national attention that there is environmental racism. This is what's happening in Cancer Alley, and it must end. The UN weighing in on it. Um, it is environmental racism from what we saw. It's a place unlike any other. And I want to bring up an image too to talk about. Here is an ancient graveyard with a lot of people's family members, and this plant bought the land and just took it over. And we went through the back way. We walked over some railroad tracks to get in here, but this is where people have to go to visit their loved ones. So people are being poisoned in every direction possible, but nobody's listening to their cry because because of environmental racism. And environmental racism, as we see, plays out in a lot of communities all across America. They try to pick what they consider communities that can't fight back, what they consider maybe lower income communities, communities where mostly working people that are unable to fight the companies. Now, the companies, you have to understand the whole thing is backwards. We found this with Mosaic in Florida, and we found this here in Cancer Alley. The whole thing is backwards. The company, it's up to the company to hit a few landmarks here or there with their paperwork and say, look, we're totally healthy. But when it comes to all these other illnesses and side effects that are happening that are not necessarily regulated or required by enforcement agencies, what we find is that it's up to the residents to get millions of dollars worth of testing to prove that there is a problem. Then, when they have the problem proven, they have to get the company to try to respond. It should be the other way around. Companies should have to have a clean bill of health before they're allowed to be in communities. And Cancer Alley is another amazing thing about it is it's not like a community with a small plant in the middle of it that's just doing some work and nobody gets harmed. It is massive amounts of mercury, benzene, all kinds of other furans and dioxins that are going out, poisoning all the local communities. And the communities are these little teeny streets that are left. And we're losing the heritage, the culture, and a lot of the people that live there. And it was a really, it was crazy to see it so blatant. They're just poisoning people so blatantly. So Sierra and I said, we have to go do this movie. It's really, really important. It's critical that we do this. And while we were making it, I was still coming off of medicine that I had been on, which gave me severe muscle cramps, gave me all kinds of side effects. And once I got off that medicine, as it was slowly going down, but it was happening during production, we thought we have to tell this story. People have to be aware. We have to stop more of these environmental cancers. So we did an Indiegogo, and we raised not very much money at the time. Like there was another world tragedy, and we really just weren't able to reach all the people we wanted, and we only raised about $600. Now, for people that don't make movies, the average cost of a movie is around $100,000. If you really know what you're doing, you can do it for 50,000. We had 600 in our hands. We thought, how are we going to do this? Maybe we just get some tents and go down and pitch by the river. Uh, and then Indiegogo. So we had a sponsor who is our good friend of ours, Paul, and he runs a CBD company, which, by the way, for anybody that is going through cancer, I highly recommend use of CBD. It helps whether it's topical for your skin and your muscles or you're ingesting it. It's a huge help. Um, so anyway, the Indiegogo said you're not allowed to offer CBD, and they rescinded all the sales that had CBD in them. We were left with $300. And the reason I tell the story is because when something's really important, you make it happen, no matter what the problem is. So here we are, $300, um, and we decided we have to still go make this movie. So we started working, and we found ways to work, and every penny we had for the next few months just went into us getting down there, continuing to do interviews, doing water tests, paying for water tests, trying to get air tests, going out in the field, entirely self-funded. Because again, the story has to be told. It was told for a very low budget, but you know, there are no such things as obstacles. Yesterday we talked about the curse of cancer and the gift of today. But that also, the gift of today and the curse of cancer also give you the idea that there are no obstacles. And what you're going to find when you watch Cancer Alley, the movie, is that the people that we met down there will show you there are no obstacles you cannot overcome. Because if you are on a mission and if you want to do it, you will get it done. You don't have to sit around and wait for somebody to give you a green light. We very much follow that philosophy as Humanimal Pictures. We have gone out and made many movies just on our own dime. We don't even think about where they're going to go for distribution. They're just stories that have to be told because we have access to get there. And we'd rather go and tell those stories than sit and wait for somebody to pay us to go tell stories. That's not why we're here. So, it's amazing. This movie, very, very personal for me, was about to go through another round of radiation as soon as the movie was done. So was down there working in a lot of pain. Every time I was sitting, I had pain from the tumors that were on there. And we'll go over some of that stuff later, the tumor sizes and things like that. That part's not that interesting, but we had $300 and we said, we just can't let these kids that are getting sick, their story to go untold any longer. So we went down and we had an amazing amount of support from the community. We got to meet with concerned citizens of St. John's. We got to meet with Rise St. James, the Bucket Brigade, a group it's called Together Louisiana, that is fighting against tax exemption programs. And all of that we go through in the movie. It is a perfect example of how industry violates the laws in the open. And we have so much incredible proof in there. We're going to take you to see EPA monitoring sites, all kinds of areas that you just aren't going to believe it. It was like Sierra said it best. It's like being on Mars. you get there and it's just entirely otherworldly. The skies are gray. It's a very different place. So the movie we thought was super important, and we're really, really proud to get it going. We are going to release it this fall, potentially the beginning of next year, depending on how the system works out for us. But we wanted to share with everybody today a trailer for we're going to be doing an Indiegogo campaign. We have got the movie to here. We need a little bit of help to get it a little bit further because we need to make sure that we're able to promote it, get the sales, get what's called E&O insurance, and get a few other technical things completed. Um, Completing a movie is a whole other issue. Shooting a movie is one issue. So here we are. We had $300. We're scraping by. We're staying at these really frightening, terrible spots all around. And meanwhile, security is following us. They're waiting for us. There's a scene that everybody will see where we were really surprised to see how popular we were to all the wrong people while we were down there. Meanwhile, a lot of journalists have been thrown in jail, their equipment confiscated. So we had to work really under the radar while we were there, which included using different rental cars, ways to get around and to try to, not be too obtrusive, which is, it can be tough to keep a low signature when, you're a bald guy and your partner's got this giant frizzy hair and we walk into town and people notice us. So it's always a trick to maintain a low signature while we're beginning our work, while we're out getting the stories of the people, because it's not about really what we see. I mean, we are part of the movie in the sense that the audience is with us and we're all going to be seeing this for the first time. And it is shocking. It's just shocking what you're going to see in this movie. Um, yeah, unlike anything that we've witnessed before. Um, but at the same time, we wanted to really focus on people that have been battling, that are on the ground, that are there. So it's a movie that we're very proud of. We want to do an entire series of places where people are continually getting cancers and environmental cancers. And that's the thing is there's a million ways to get an environmental cancer. It can come from your water, your air, it can come from tons of different chemicals. Out of all of the chemicals that we need looked at and regulated that is being pumped into our daily environment, I believe there's about 20 to 50 that they look at. The testing from the EPA is terrible. EPA's relationship with industry is questionable, and the EPA's inaction is unforgivable. We're going to talk about all that as well. So I just wanted to give a little bit of a stories, about Cancer Alley. The challenges we had were definitely it was a very hostile environment. Um, these companies keep control through security, through police. They keep people very tightened down. Gosh, just thinking about it, they're actually probably watching this right now. And I'm not, trying to flatter myself. We were told they were watching us by them while we were there. So anyway, just wanted to share. This is one of our good friends, Sharon Levine. This is in the movie from Rise St. James. If you're not familiar with her, you should check her out. She has done a lot of work to bring Cancer Alley into the forefront of attention. And this is our card, our feature for it. This is, right there is what's called CF Industries, which is actually part of what used to be attached to Mosaic, but they do uranium sales and other things. And we will show you our run-in with their security in the movie. This is our friend Travis, who is looking towards us, and we just thought this really um, is what we saw everywhere was a lot of residents that are not being listened to and being poisoned all at once. Um, So, anyway, I just wanted to share a couple of those stories with you. We want to keep bringing everything together little by little. Tomorrow, we're going to be back to talk a little bit more about cancer and how it affects us. Today, we just wanted to talk about the movie, why it's so important to us. It means the world to us. We're really, really hoping that when the movie comes out, people are going to be sharing it, talking about it, because it's happening everywhere. And we hope that when you watch it, you're going to recognize your backyard in their backyard, because we all are being poisoned by these companies. This, unfortunately, is not an exception to the story. It is the rule. And if there's a clean environment or a clean community out there, that's the exception. So please be ready for checking it out. If you haven't seen Phosphate, it is free on Tubi. Please go check it out. It's about people in Florida that are fighting against environmental cancer. And we're going to go ahead and pop ourselves over to put this up. Oh, thank you, Sierra. I see that you've put a couple of these links down here. Everybody, if you can please check for the links. And Sierra does say original plan was for Eric and Stell to paddleboard the Mississippi while investigating what's going on in Cancer Alley. So that was the original idea. Stell Bailey, our good friend and cancer advocate, she and I were going to go down, and the idea was we're going to paddleboard it. Well, we learned soon enough that it's almost impossible to paddleboard. There are areas of it where you can, but not the main channels, because of the way that the currents run, the wrecks that are underneath of it. And we were told pretty much that it would just be too dangerous to do. Normally, that wouldn't stop us, but we felt that going out and putting ourselves in that kind of danger wasn't going to get us any further in understanding the story. So we decided to take a land-based approach instead. It's something that I think would still be amazing to do. I'd love to hear everybody's comments. I would still be up to, if we could do a fundraiser, some form, where all the money goes to help fight for the cancer victims in Cancer Alley. I would still love to go paddleboard it. So let us know, everybody. Let us know. If you want us to do it, we're going to find a way. But for the movie, it didn't quite work. So, and please, everybody, check out, like I said, Cancer Alley's coming up soon. Please check us out on our socials, Cancer Alley Movie or Cancer Alley. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, find us everywhere. We are doing a pre-launch for the Indiegogo. So if you want to try to help us out, make sure this message gets sent, gets magnified, then we're asking that you do that. And now, without much more talking, I would like to show you our video that we have put together. This involves a lot of what we've already done for the movie, as well as our pitch. And this is going to be for our official Indiegogo campaign, which will start on Tuesday. So here we go. This is a little sneak peek of what's coming up in Cancer Alley. When you're diagnosed with cancer, you're either given a life sentence or a death sentence. And unfortunately, more of us know what that means every year. With cancer rates on the rise, it's currently estimated that 1 in 3 people will get cancer in their lifetime. That means that when you're at dinner, sitting around your table tonight, look around and you'll understand what those odds mean. I was diagnosed with cancer in 2005 and I'm still battling it. I've been through 13 surgeries, done radiation, chemo, experimental drugs, and my cancer is still there. As a matter of fact, it's spreading. Cancer Alley is an investigation into what happens when industry is allowed to run free.
85% of the people in St. James in the 5th District, someone had cancer. I have cancer now.
First of all, my father died in my arms.
You've seen the people in your family suffering, and you've seen the bodies deteriorate.
It's genocide.
And these plants are killing us, people. They're killing us.
The United States of America is segregated, and so is pollution.
What I can tell you is there are none of these facilities in Beverly Hills.
This is environmental racism. This is genocide. They're making us a sacrifice zone.
And those communities are right along the edge of those chemical plants.
Racism has always been, and it still is there.
This is a story of companies polluting people without care or regulation. But it's also a story of hope and spirit and defiance.
stretch of land in Louisiana that used to be known as plantation country, where enslaved Africans were brought against their will and forced to work. Today, though, this part of the state is known as Cancer Alley, and residents whose ancestors have lived here for generations are now fighting for clean air.
There have been over 500 movies shot in Louisiana, and I can't believe that ours is the only feature film about Cancer Alley. We've completed production on the movie, which was quite a challenge, but now we really need your help. The bigger challenge is getting this conversation as wide and far as possible, because most of the time the media will not cover it. As a matter of fact, the major news media only spoke about this 9 times last year and only twice about Cancer Alley. As a cancer patient, working on this story has been extremely transformative. The money that we're raising will be used to finish our online process and get the movie out to as widest of an audience as possible. We have a lot of different perks for this project, including a special thanks all the way up to taking a toxic tour with us and members of Cancer Alley. We also have a feature to add the name of a friend or loved one that's going through cancer or has been through cancer or has passed away from cancer, as a way to present ourselves as a community. Although we're a community that never wanted to be together, we are a community that has been thrown together, and we're a community that has to fight our way out of it together. And it's okay, if you can't donate directly, please share the story, help us spread the awareness, and keep this topic in conversations. I want to thank you for taking the time to consider being part of our project. Help us change the future. Help us make a difference. It means the world to people like myself that are already suffering from cancer, but it also could mean a world of difference to the people that haven't got it yet.
All we asking for the industry is to stop polluting us.
We will survive.
EPA, you need to start doing your job. I don't want the United States to be a whole cancer alley.
Well, we're really looking forward to getting this story out into the public and sharing this with everybody. Like I said, it is unlike anything we've ever seen. Anyway, thank you for joining us today. Again, tomorrow we will be back and we'll be talking more about cancer and answers about cancer, hopefully, because there are not a lot of answers. All of us that face cancer face a lot of uncertainty every day. And it's an uncertainty that most people don't have to deal with. The uncertainty of tomorrow, which again brings us, at least a lot of us, the gift of today. So whether you're going through cancer, somebody you love, friend of yours, maybe even just somebody you kind of know, this podcast is for you to talk about the journey of the modern cancer patient. There's so many of us. You know, they have this semi-false fact that less of us are now dying from cancer. That is because more of these environmental hybrid cancers are not necessarily going to kill us in the traditional sense. So a lot of us, like myself, are living longer. But it doesn't mean that the death rate is coming down. It just means that the types of cancer they can't cure is going up. So we're all in the same boat together. Anyway, sending you guys very positive energy today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Looking forward to seeing you for tomorrow's podcast as we continue to talk about cancers, answers, Cancer Alley, and more. So have a great day, and I'll see you all tomorrow.